of the Torah. Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haralem asher kishanu b'mitzvata v'tzivanu la'asak b'nterei Torah. Please, Jehovah, make the Torah's words sweet in my mouth and in the mouth of all your people, the house of Israel. May we, your children, all of Israel, know your name and the name of your Messiah, Yeshua. And may we study your Torah simply because it is good. Blessed are you, Yehovah, who gave us the Torah of truth. Amen. You can be seated. You can come forward. Children are being dismissed, I guess. Hallelujah. Everyone else just open up to the book of 1 Peter. The book of 1 Peter. We're going to be talking about Peter chapter 1, verses 6 and 7 tonight. We're just going to stay with 2 verses and continue to see what Yehovah wants us to understand about the book of Peter. It's a very powerful book, amen. We're going to be talking about the value of your genuine faith. There's a value of your faith. There's a cost to it. That as you sit here with people who are in faith, emunah, that you have a cost to why you're sitting here. You know, all of us at one time or another have faced various kinds of trials and issues of life. And in fact, probably right now, some of you are sitting here going through various trials, various issues, right? Now, the question that I want to ask you is, would you say that your trials are more, talking about you personally, are more first world trials or third world trials? Most of them would be first world, right? Very few of us experience third world trials, and you know, a lot of times what we consider a trial is actually a problem, not necessarily a trial. And I'm not demeaning our trials, because we're going to talk about that we do have trials. But a lot of times our trials is that our iPhone is not working correctly, that Samsung is not answering our phone call, that there are some situations, the internet is slow, there's things going on, the red light is too long, and we're just cannot believe that we have to exist in a society where we don't have heat and abundance right now, right? And when we look at the third world, you know, they haven't eaten for weeks. And they work all day long, 12 to 14 hours a day, and they make $1, $1 US, and then they come back and try to feed their family, and they try to create a home. They try to do some powerful things. The 4-year-old gets up 2 hours before school, fetches water 1 mile away, comes back and does the chores, then walks to school, then stays in school till about 5, then comes home and finishes the chores before they do the homework. Then they do the homework, and then they go to bed. And then they go up the next morning and do the same thing. To me, that's a trial, right? That's a trial. And so no matter how you look at it, in the USA, we live in affluence, right? We are a wealthy nation, and we get that. We understand that, and how many can say amen to it? Amen. I'm not saying we all going to pack up and go to the third world so you can experience your trials. Thank the Lord that you are here. I thank the Lord for living in a society, in a nation that has that affluence, that has that ability, and that we can have some things that normal other people do not have. So, but I don't have any problem with affluence, with prosperity, with having things. But there are times when our blessings can cause us to be less than sensitive to what it means to have trials, okay? And we take the little tiny things, which shouldn't be trials at all, and make them into trials. We say things like this. We take a molehill and make it into a mountain. We take something that really, if we would look in the scheme of life, it's ridiculous that we are upset about what's going on. And we're ridiculous at why we're spending time at the altar weeping over something that, and if we looked at everyone else's life, it would be something that we just get up, buck up, and move on, right? So the question would be, and then we're going to answer this tonight, is what really causes our grief? And if causing your grief is something like the internet is slow, or Comcast or Chantel or DirecTV is out because of the rain, then you're going to really have to look at some different things in our life. Now, we all face trials, right? We all face death. We've had people die in our lives. We all have lost people. My mother will be gone for 5 years this Sunday. So we've lost her 5 years ago. So We've all experienced that. We all experience sickness, right? And experience people that have sickness and other things in our lives. And the reason why, and we see it as we look at the news, we saw what happened in Texas. We see what happens, with the hurricanes and the floods. And we have all these things and people and shooting children and abortion. We just look at all that and we're trying to figure out, what's going on. But here's the key. We live in a fallen world. And this fallen world is not only fallen, but it's broken. And no matter how you look at it, there will be things that will happen in the world that will cause both the just and the unjust pain, struggle, and real trials. Because that's what life is all about. It rains on the just and the unjust. And we experience all these things as well as people who are not born again, those who do not know Yeshua. The thing is, and what I don't understand, especially someone who's served the Lord mainly all his life, is I don't know how people get through it without Yeshua. Honestly. Someone might say, well, you're using Yeshua as a crutch. Yes, I need a crutch. I will certainly agree with you. I need a crutch. I need him. I can't do it on my own. And if you think that crutch is a bad thing, then, if I can't walk, I need a cane. Hallelujah. And if I can't use a cane, I need a wheelchair. And I'm not going to not do that because you think that's ridiculous. So I'm thankful that my crutch is Yeshua HaMashiach because he will never break, he will never fail. And so I need him because I'm in a fallen world, a broken world, and that will cause me pain, and it will cause me struggle, and it will cause me trials. Now, even though we live in an affluent society, it doesn't mean that we don't face real trials, because we do, okay? But sometimes we face trials that can only happen in an affluent society that they wouldn't have in a third world, because we live in this world, and we live with this affluent society and means, and what happens is we will experience those testings and trials. And one of those is that we have temptations because we have stuff. The temptation is wanting more stuff, and then getting it the wrong way, because the more we have, the more we want. That's how buffets were created. Okay, that's just how they were created. Because they thought, hey, I'll give them a couple things there, and then they'll come, and they'll be like a herd of cow, and they go and they just eat. I like a good buffet, right? Paul says, buffet your body, right? So I'm following Paul. So what is interesting is that Peter sandwiches two words that don't make sense. And we're going to look at them in 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 6. And those two words are rejoice and trial. So we have the beginning of verse 6 says, rejoice in this. Then it continues on, even though for a little while you may have to experience grief and various trials. So we have rejoice and we have trials, and that doesn't make sense to me. Because who would ever rejoice in trials? Rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say, rejoice. Okay, so we had that understanding, but let's look with some insight of really what he's talking about. So as we look at each phrase, we're going to take verse 6 and we're going to go through each phrase. So we're going to take the first phrase, rejoice in this. Now remember, who's he writing to? Yes, he's writing to you, but who's he really writing to other than you? Who's he writing to in this book? Yes, but he's, yes. Y'all missing a point, though. Who's he writing to? He's writing to the dispersed. They are experiencing a trial. What trial is that? They were separated from their homeland. And not only were they separated from the homeland, but it also means that they were probably separated from some of their family, right? They were separated from their homes. If we had to pack up and head to the mountains, you can't pack up your house. You leave your home, right? You leave things that are familiar to you. You leave things that are important to you, because let's just say we had a persecution moment and they were coming and you had to pack up everything. You couldn't pack up everything. You'd have to take what you need in order to survive. So that means you might have to leave your pictures, your personal items, the things that you were given to you by your grandmother, your great-grandmother, passed down. You're going to leave those things. So he's telling them, when he says rejoice in this, he's speaking to people who are out of their homeland, who are dispersed, who are away from the things that they hold dear, who are away from members of their family, who are people who have left their land and they left this land that they are used to. And he starts out by saying to them, rejoice in this. Peter says, in this you greatly rejoice. Really? Yes. So what is it that you greatly rejoice in? You're not rejoicing because you're dispersed. You're not rejoicing because you left your grandma back there and you're up here and you don't know what to do. You're not rejoicing because you were separated from your children somewhere along the path and you don't know where they're at. You're not rejoicing because you left all those things that were important to you. Rejoice in this. And what is this that he wants you to rejoice in? Verses 3 through 5. Let's go back. In verses 3 through 5, what's he say? Praise be God, Father of our Lord Yeshua, the Messiah, who in keeping with his great mercy, and I don't have to go over this because we went over it last week, has caused us, through the resurrection of Yeshua the Messiah from the dead, to be born again to a living hope, to an inheritance that cannot decay, spoil, or fade, keep safe for you in heaven. Meanwhile, through trusting you are being protected by God's power for deliverance, ready to be revealed at the last time. Rejoice in this. Where are you? I'm dispersed, but rejoice in your hope. Rejoice in your resurrection. Rejoice that you have a living hope. Rejoice in this. But I'm separated from my family. But rejoice in Yeshua. Rejoice in Yeshua that the power of deliverance is going to be ready to be revealed. Rejoice in this. What is our problem? We focus on the trial and the tribulation and that we are dispersed and that we've left some things and that we're separated from things. And those are things that will cause us grief. And I'm not saying that you don't look at them and have grief. But the thing is, Paul is exhorting us to rejoice not in what we're going through, but the hope that we have, which will then help us to go through what we're going through, right? And what is it we rejoice in even in the midst of our trials? Very simple. Yehovah's great mercy. He's still showing us mercy. And that's what we rejoice in. Sometimes we don't appreciate his mercy until we have experienced some suffering and trials. The more that we live in affluence and the more that we don't have things that are coming against us, the more that we're living on the mountaintop experience. Hallelujah. Amen. I'm the head, not the tail. I'm above, not beneath. Greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. All those weapons formed against me shall not prosper. All those that rise against me shall fall. When we live in that realm, sometimes we forget about his mercy. And we start living then for who? For ourselves. Do you recognize Jehovah's great mercy? And it's sad, but sometimes things have to be taken before we appreciate it. Right? You have to lose something in order to appreciate it. Children appreciate their parents, but they don't appreciate their parents as much until those parents are gone. Then the void causes you to appreciate. We live in a place where we can worship. We have a nice house. We have a kahila. We love each other. We're able to come here freely and live. But we won't really truly appreciate what we have until it's taken from us. So we are praying that it's not taken from us. And we should be encouraged to appreciate it before it's removed from us. Right? We are to look at that because what do we have? We have a living hope. One of the problems of affluence is that we have the tendency to put our attention on the world. Because we live in such a society that we have to put it on the world. I can't believe I don't have any more beans. I can't believe the Dorito bag is empty. I can't believe the milk is not. Why didn't you get milk? We live in this affluence that it's so easy to gain something, to get something. You know, still in a third world country, there are people who only have milk after the cow is milked. And they have to get on a bicycle, or they have to walk. They have to find someone who has a cow. They have to ask for that milk. They have to purchase that milk. And they can only purchase it in small quantities because they don't have enough to buy 3 gallons like we do. So we have a tendency to put our attention on the world. And we always seem to look for something better in this world and not look to the world to come because things are pretty good. And though we want Yeshua to come, if we were honest with ourselves, we really want him to come when things are bad. When things are good, we ask him just to hold off for a little while. Things are pretty good right now. Right? You're at the altar when your marriage is messed up. You're at the altar when your children are in disarray and they're not acting right. You're at the altar when your money's out and you're at the altar saying, listen, I don't know how much I can take. You just need to come. Just come. But you're not there when everything's good with your husband and wife. You're not there with everything's good with your children and you have enough money to supply. You just want to live life and give him what? And give him praise. You're not asking him to come because you have what you need. And so Yeshua tells us that we are to seek first, right, his kingdom and his righteousness, and then all these things will be added unto you. And so we cannot continue to look at the world. We still need to understand that I need to rejoice in this. I'm not rejoicing in that I have all the money that I need, though I do not. I'm not going to rejoice that I have my car is running and the best car, the best house. Those things are temporal. They come and they go. What do I need to rejoice in? Verses 3 through 5. This is what I really need to rejoice in. So whether I'm in a place that I am dispersed or whether I'm in my homeland, the rejoicing is still the same. Correct? We also have the seal of Yeshua's resurrection that we read in verses 3 through 5, that we too will raise in him and we too will raise with him. So what is Peter saying to them? Rejoice in this, that even if you die, wherever you are at, he will raise with him. Wherever you are at, he has been raised, and therefore he's in you. So he's in you whether you're in Jerusalem, he's in you whether you're in Turkey, he's in you whether you're at the mountain, he's in you whether you're in the valley. He is there with you. And whatever happens in any of those situations, those places, resurrection is our hope and our excitement. That's the mercy he's given to us. You know, as young people, and I say that just for a moment, but as young people, I can remember, I don't think about life and when it will end. Because young people don't think about death. What they think about is that they have all the time they need to do whatever they want to do. Right? So sometimes they don't think about consequences. Right? And some of you acted like a fool. You don't think about consequences. Right? You were in a car, you went 90, 95, 100. You're not thinking. Today, at your age, you're thinking, don't go past 36. Right? And when you get in a car with your grandchildren and they start driving, you're like, but you forget, when you were driving, you were speed demons. Anyone say amen? Oh, please. Gail, you didn't drive to your... That's right. That's all right. Praise the Lord. When you're in your 50s, how many are with me in the 50s? When you're in the 50s, you kind of just think, I'm in my 50s. Because then you think about 60 coming, and you're thinking, that's kind of like, you know, even if you're guaranteed 120, I'm middle age, and that's like the top of the hill, and I'm ready to go down the hill, right? So you're getting, if you ever walked up a hill, you walk pretty good in the beginning. In the middle, you kind of get a little tired. When you get to that top, you're like, Lord. And that's how sometimes you're in your 50s, you're like, Lord. And then 60, you kind of look in, because we have the internet, you kind of look at age expectancy. 60. For males and females, I'm 60. And then in 70s, you start counting. 71, 72. A lot of people die at 85. I'm 70. I'm just saying. You might not be that morbid, but you might be surprised that you do it mentally, but you don't really do it physically. But where is your hope? Right? Where do I put my strength? His resurrection becomes very important toward the end of your life. Right? Because the grave is not over. To be absent from the body is to be, that's our hope. I mean, when you're on your deathbed, I'm going to see him. That's my hope. All right? It would be great if young people that would kind of understand the importance and how precious this resurrection is, and that they would learn that appreciation at a very young age and then grow in that appreciation. Not that they would have to arrive somewhere in their life and then start to appreciate. It would be great that if we taught our children to appreciate that at the very beginning. Can you imagine when they get to 70 how much that appreciation would be there? Yeshua's conquered death, right? And so he's given us then this inheritance. And this is, again, 3 through 5. But I have to say this to you because we have to understand 6 and 7. So our inheritance will not be taken away. We discussed that, right? Because where it's kept? In heaven, right? However, we have sometimes look so far ahead, and sometimes we focus so far on the future, we forget about the present. Especially in this day and age when everyone wants to see, when Yeshua's coming, and we look for the end time things. Is this the white horse, the pale horse, the brown horse, the black horse, the red horse? What horse is it? And here's the thing. It's nice to maybe know some of those things and understand those things, but Yehovah doesn't only focus on present, and he doesn't only focus on future. He focuses on both of them, right? And we have a tendency to focus on one or the other. We either worry about what we're doing today, or then we're worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow. And one of the greatest things about Hebraic thinking, when we think of our scriptures in Hebraic ways, is that the scriptures do not put at odds our hope for the future and the blessings we have right now. Just like if we were having a discussion and you disagree with me, and then someone over here disagree with you, and they disagree with me, in a typical contemporary Christian church, that would almost close a church. It would divide it, right? People would just say, I'm not coming back. Someone disagree with me. I'm not coming back. But in Hebraic ways, not all, there is imperfections, but most of the time, if you disagree and you disagree and you disagree, then the answer would be, who's right? Yes, everyone is right, because everyone has this perspective. Now, I guess unless it's really off the Word of God, you can say that is wrong. But, you can view the Word of God in different ways, correct? And still keep the foundation. So the Scripture talks about this is not our home, correct? There's an old song that some of you might know it, some of you young people will not. It says, this world is not my home, I'm just passing through. My treasures are laid up somewhere beyond the blue. And the reason why I bring that up is because we sometimes want our church people to only focus on somewhere in the blue, right? And we talk about, you're going to have treasures in heaven, and that's good because we need treasures in heaven, correct? And then we kind of look at the treasures on the earth, and what will happen to the treasure on the earth. They will rust, and the moth will eat it away, and they will lose it, and will decay. But that's not true about all things. Because I have treasures here. My wife is a treasure. I have her. Right? My children are a treasure. My grandchildren are a treasure. This Kahila is a treasure. Some of you are a treasure. No. All of you are a treasure. I have my family. I have my best friend, Pastor Kenny. He's a treasure. All right? So I should, while I'm here in this present, appreciate those treasures. And if I appreciate those treasures, then what do? I enhance them, I guard them, I care for them, and I love them. But if you're only looking at the future, that I have no treasures here, all my treasures laid in heaven, then you kind of live your life without caring, enhancing, and taking care of things. So the future does not negate the present, nor does the present negate the future. And we have to learn how to balance. And this is what 1 Peter is really talking about. Learning how to balance. Rejoice in what? In this. This is what you have. But know where you're at. And having them both in our hearts and minds makes the difference in our lives. Because we don't want to get out of our present, right? And rush it so that we can get to the future. Correct? And we're not living in such the future that we're not paying attention, taking care of the present. So people really misunderstand that word rejoice. Because if I say to you, let's rejoice, the first thought in your brain is to what? Shout, sing, dance, run. And those things are all part of it. But that's not exactly the definition of the word rejoice. Rejoice is better translated as exalt. Exalt. Okay? In the Greek, exalt, also in the Hebrew. So let's look at that word then, rejoice and exalt. And this is the definition in Greek in 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 6. It is a deep, settled joy which rests upon the assured hope of Yehovah's faithfulness. I'll say it again as you write it. It is a deep, settled joy. What kind of joy? Deep settled, which rests upon the assured hope of Jehovah's faithfulness. As I was studying this and writing some things, the Lord just brought to my mind that sometimes our rejoicing with enthusiasm, now you all know I am for rejoicing with enthusiasm. I like a good run, I like to dance, I like to shout, amen? But sometimes rejoicing with enthusiasm sometimes is actually compensating for a lack of trust. In that we have to overcompensate to try to get us to trust. We're overcompensating to try to get the faith that should already be deep settled. So if sickness comes, let's just use an example of sickness. If sickness comes, I should know that by his stripes I am healed. But I will do spiritual mechanisms and spiritual things to try to persuade me that I am healed. But where does the healing come from? Him, but from the deep, settled faith that by his stripes I am healed. And so sometimes in the deepest struggle of our soul, in the deepest times when we are battling, when we know what is true against what we are experiencing, we can still rejoice. We can still exalt in Yehovah. Because I know that I know that I know. And yes, I can jump and shout, but you know you can't jump and shout 24 hours a day. You can't be in the car and jump and shout. You can't go to work and jump and shout. So there's a time for jumping and shouting hallelujah, but there should be a deep, settled joy knowing that even no matter what is going on, and this is what Paul is saying, I want you to exalt in this. I want you to rejoice in this, not focused on your being dispersed. Don't focus on what you've lost. Don't focus on what you don't have. Don't focus on what you're now experiencing. Don't focus on what you've lost. Don't focus on what you're going through. But rejoice and exalt in this, which means you can be experiencing grief, but at the same time have deep, settled joy, because trials do bring grief sometimes. So it doesn't mean that you have to walk around like this all the time. Sometimes you don't feel like that physically. Sometimes you are feeling the trial. And feeling the trial doesn't mean you have an absence of Yehovah. Because you can feel the trial, and at the same time, because my mother is on Sunday, I felt the pain of the loss of my mother, but I had a deep, settled joy. I knew where she was. I knew what was going on, but I still grieved, right? So I didn't come running. Oh, my mother died. I felt the pain. I felt the tears. I felt the agony, but inside was this deep-seated joy of the hope that I have in Yeshua. Now, later on, as you come out, you might start to exhibit some outward manifestations of rejoicing. But even though this rejoicing can be expressed outwardly, the scripture tells us it's also deep within. So be careful with people who are only able to do it on the outside, right? And that if they don't have that atmosphere, then their faith and their deepness of joy is not there, because they have to have the right song. They have to have that right atmosphere. Listen, the atmosphere is in here, right? Let's look at a couple verses. Psalms chapter 2, verse 11. Serve Yehovah with fear, rejoice, but then with what? With trembling. So you're serving him with fear and you're rejoicing, but you're also trembling. Psalms 5:12 says, but let all who take refuge in you rejoice. Let them forever shout for joy. Shelter them and they will be glad, those who love your name. So that's an outward understanding, right? You're shouting, correct? So you have this inward and outward. You have this outward. And then in Psalms chapter 63, and what I want you to do, we're only going to read 8 and 9, but I really need you to go home tonight and read the whole chapter, because I was trying to debate whether I should put the whole chapter up there, but I only did 8 and 9, but the whole chapter is excellent. You need to read that. It says this, for you have been my help, and in the shadow of your wings, I what? I rejoice. What's the shadow of his wings mean? In the quietness, in the intimacy, when no one's around, there's a deep joy within me. I'm rejoicing. I'm rejoicing. It's not outward. People can't see it. It's me and you in the shadow of your wings. My heart, what? Clings to you, and your right hand does what? It supports me. Can we do that? Can we exalt in our Yehovah even in trials and even in times that we're struggling? I mean, it's easy to exalt when everything is going well, but can we do it when things don't seem to be so perfect in our lives? Because there's no reason to fear. Let's go back to 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 6. So what do we have? We have rejoice in this. And what? Verses 3 through 5. All right? And then what does he say? Even though. So underline that, because even though what? Even though you will be distressed by trials. Even though you will be experiencing things that you don't want to experience. Even though you're going through a test, a trial, a tribulation. Even though your life stinks right now. Even though, right? So we are to rejoice in this, even though you're dispersed. Rejoice in this, even though you don't have all your family. Rejoice in this, even though you're experiencing pain and agony. Rejoice in this. We're talking about maturity, aren't we? Now remember, this letter is to them, which means he is looking to them and saying they must be experiencing this. And the Ruach comes and gives him this understanding so that he can encourage these people who are in trial. That's why Peter's important to us. Because he's lived it too, right? He's lived it. And he's had to live to learn to rejoice in this, even though you've experienced this betrayal 3 times, and what you feel, still rejoice in this, even though, because you're carrying the weight of what you're feeling, right? I'm not dismissing what you feel. I'm not telling you can't feel it. And the reason why I'm telling you that is because look at John 16. But a time is coming, indeed it has come already, when you will be scattered. So it sounds like 1 Peter, right? Each one looking out for himself, and you will leave me all alone. Yet I am not alone, because the Father is with me. And I have said these things to you, so that uniting with me, you may have what? Shalom. Now, what's he say? In the world, and where do you live? You have tribulation. He doesn't even say you will have tribulation. He doesn't say you might have it. He says you have tribulation. Just the mere location of where you're at, right? The only way you're not going to have tribulation is where? You change locations. And that means from earthly to heavenly. And right now, you all don't look sick enough to be changing locations. So in the world, you will have what? Tribulation. But be brave. Why? I have conquered the world. You know what that means? I have conquered the world? Verses 3 through 5. How did he conquer the world? He came. He lived perfectly. He became an example for us. He died, went to a grave, and was resurrected. He conquered the world. Right? So you can be brave. As long as you rejoice on what? Verses 3 through 5. Not your trial. You can look out your window every day and realize you've been dispersed, and you can boo-hoo. And though you can experience this grief that you're not where you're supposed to be, you should be able to have this deep joy of what he's already done for you. And that whatever you're going through, the tribulation, there's nothing out of the ordinary with that. I don't know why I'm going through so much. There's nothing out of the ordinary. I don't know why you think that God's picking on me? Why is God picking on me? Why is that? Do I have a target on my back? It's ordinary. This is common. We live in a broken world that causes pain and sorrow. The only way you can escape this tribulation is to lay down and give it up. So the question is this: will these tribulations, these testings, these trials, will these build our faith in Yehovah? That's the question. Are you allowing? No, we know because we know the story of Joseph, so we know the end, and it all works out. But you don't think that Joseph was given a cue card of how it's all going to work out when he was thrown into the pit, do you? I mean, no one said, it's okay. It's all going to work out. All he knew was the present. And what was the present? He brought some tuna fish sandwiches to his brothers for lunch. And he ends up being thrown into a pit after having his coat ripped off of him. Now, we know he's a man of faith because we see the end, and we know at the end he says, oh, it's okay because what you meant for evil, God meant for good, and we clap and say, amen, we want to be like him. But you don't know what he was experiencing the first time he hit the floor or hit the dirt in that pit. Because he's human like us. What would we be thinking? If I could get out of here, I'm going to kill every single one of them people. Right? God doesn't really go into details, but we know that Joseph had still a deep joy, but we still can't deny what he might have felt because we would have felt. We would have been struggling. Oh, Lord, we know you're true. We know you're on the throne, but at the same time, you're looking for a way out. Right? Because you're not liking where you're at. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 12. What does it say? Dear friends, don't regard as strange the fiery ordeal occurring among you to test you, as if something extraordinary were happening to you. If I can translate that, do you think you're so special that you have to have some extraordinary thing happening to you? Are you like Elijah? I'm the only one. You're not the only one. Yeah, but I'm the only one here. But this is not the only people in the world, right? So someone is experiencing what you're experiencing. Many people are experiencing what you're experiencing. You know why? Because we live in a fallen world. And a fallen world is broken, and it causes pain and sorrow. So therefore, it has no respecter of persons. And if it will find you, it will cause sorrow and pain. And the only thing that you can do in that is that when it comes to you, rejoice in this, even though. Look at 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 12 through 14. We don't like these verses. We like the verses that say, nothing touches you. Therefore, let anyone who thinks he is standing up be careful not to fall. No temptation has seized you beyond what people normally experience. And Yehovah can be trusted not to allow you to be tempted beyond what you can bear. And on the contrary, along with the temptation, he will also provide the way out, so that you will be able to endure. Therefore, my dear friends, run from idolatry. And what is the way out to you? Rejoice in this. The way out of the temptation is not that you're out of the temptation. The way out of the trial is not that you're out of the trial. The way out of being dispersed is not that you will come home. It might be, but maybe not right away. So the way out of this trial is not to let this trial be on you, have you, manipulate you, change you, because you are now changing your focus onto what you need to rejoice in, which gives you the power to live through the trial. And though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will what? Fear no evil. Why? For thou art with me. And what else is with you? Thy rod and thy staff, they what? Comfort me. These are common things. And many have faced what you are facing before, and many will face what you have faced after you're long gone. And the promise of Yeshua, the same promise that was with your great-grandparents and your grandparents, is the same promise with you. And when you're gone and living not in this world. It will be the same promise for your children and your grandchildren and the great-grandchildren. And Yehovah is still good even when you're facing life's trials. Right? Thanks for the enthusiasm. Maybe it's the deep joy that you're experiencing at this moment. Now, when we're going through trials, do we shed tears? Yes. You don't say to someone who's shedding tears, stop crying. Ain't nothing to cry about. I mean, you say that to your children, right? You either stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. I already have something to cry about. Why do you want to let me stop crying so you make me cry some more? We moan, we groan. All of us do it. I know. I don't care how spiritual you are. If you don't catch yourself, you'll moan and you'll groan, right? You'll stomp your feet. You'll make huffing noise. You'll roll your eyes. You all do all that, right? Thank God you do it separately at different times, because if you all rolled your eyes, I'd be done. I'd just go home. But ultimately, we will persevere, right? So, rejoice in this. Rejoice in what? Verses 3 through 5. Even though, right? Next one. For a little while. Someone give God praise for a little while. Thank you, God, that he said little. In a little while. Not in a long while. Not for the rest of your life, but in a little while. So in studying this, we have some options, because people have some knowledge and they want to give that knowledge. So let me give the knowledge of people who look at this for a little while and give you some options. And you can choose whatever option you want. The first option is that persecution happened in previous years, but now has ceased. So in a little while, it's going to be over. It's happened. It's done. Another option is that they believe is that persecution that was declining and it's on its way out. I like for it to get out before it knocks me out. And the third option is this, that periods of persecution compared to eternity is a little while. Because how long is eternity? And how long is your life? It's like a whisper. I mean, it looks like last week I was in my 20s. Right? I mean, you look in the mirror and you think, what happened? What's going on? They don't make mirrors like they used to. I'm going to return this mirror. It is not right. I need my money back. Right? And it can be quick because you can, the next day you look up and say, I didn't see that spot. I don't know. What happened there? It's very quick, right? It's a whisper. So compared to eternity, your life is a little while. So therefore, this trial is going to be what? A little while. So think about your life. This being this whisper, it comes and while it goes, it's moving fast. And compared to eternity, our lifespan is very, very short. Even though we are struggling with trials, it seems very, very long. But in the scope of eternity, it's short. So rejoice in what? Verses 3 and 5. Even though in a little while, right? In a little while what? Verse, you may have to. No, I don't like that either. You may have to. Which means what? If Yehovah wills, then Yehovah is sovereign. And if he is sovereign and your steps are ordered, correct? And that he leads you and guides you, then that means when you come to this test and trial and struggle and tribulation, who led you there? Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you won't be alone. He walks with you. He could have not allowed you to go that way. He could have pointed a different route. He could have translated you across that valley, correct? Could he have stopped the trial? Yes. Could he have commanded the struggle to leave? Yes. Could he have just said to the people, to the disciples when they got in the boat, you're going to experience a storm. Don't worry about it. I'll be there in a minute. No. What did he do? Get on the boat, go to the other side. Does he know a storm's coming? Yes. Does he know they're going to struggle? Does he know that he's going to scare them when he walks? Yes. Right? They say, oh, it's a ghost. He's like, I like it. I like scaring these disciples. He could have stopped it. He could have said, no, don't go right now. There's a storm coming. Wait, I know everything. But he didn't. Listen, I may be put, and you're not going to like this one, but I may be put in this situation, and I don't know why, but Yahuwah will cause all things to work together. Now, it could have been my disobedience that got me there, but he still knew I was going there, so he's always going to use it. It could be, you could search your life. Did I sin? No. Did I have an attitude? No. Did I do this? No. What's going on? Life, exactly. Romans 8:28, what does it say? Furthermore, we know that Yahuwah causes everything. Stop right there. Don't start to say to work. Just let that sit in you. Yahuwah does what? Causes everything to work together for the good of those who love Yahuwah and are called in accordance with His purpose. So how many love Yahuwah? How many feel that you're called according to His purpose? You can't not do it now because you know what I'm going. No, I don't know about love. You are called and you are loved. Therefore, everything that you will go through is Yahuwah ordained because He is sovereign. If He didn't want you to go through it, He wouldn't allow you to go through it. If He wants to stop it, He can stop it. If He wants to stop the sun from shining, He can. If He can hold off a day, He will. If He can change a direction, He will. We've seen Him do it. So therefore, if He doesn't do it, then that test, that trial, is a teaching moment for you. It's to propel you someplace. It's to cause the purpose of God to be operational in your life. Sure. Because our responsibility is still our responsibility. And even though He'll know that we won't pray or that He knows that we will pray, He already knows what we need before we ask. So if He knows what we need before He asks, why does He ask us to ask? Because we have a responsibility. If He knows that you're going to accept Him, then or that He knows you're going. If He knew that Adam and Eve were going to sin, why did He create them? Because they still have to walk things out. So the responsibility is still on you. You still must do things. You don't just get up and say, I'm waiting. You direct me. You drag me. You still have to walk it out. And because He is who He is, going from the beginning to the end, He, even in your failure or what you do or do not do, He's already orchestrating your life according to what He knows you're going to do. So that's the power of Him. He's sovereign. So that's a good thing. It's a good thing for me. It's a good thing for you. So therefore, this test, I think I have it up here, this trial, this struggle I face, this battle I am fighting, anyone with me? Then I say to him, it's by your intention. That's hard to swallow. So I know it will be what? For my good and your glory. Again, let's just use Joseph. Did he get up that morning and say, oh, let me take the lunch because I feel a pit coming. And I'm going to be really excited when they throw me in it. Glory, glory, glory. No. And in fact, if God said to him, now listen, I gave you a dream. The dream was you're going to be a ruler. People are going to bow down to you. And what about he just did not give him that dream, but said, here's a dream. You're going to run into some people, but I can't tell you who. And they're going to strip you of your garment and throw you in a pit. And then glory, you're going to be sold into slavery. How many know you're not sharing that with anyone? You won't even leave the house after that one. Well, thrown in the pit, I'm staying away from all pits. So when the dad said, hey, take these, Dad, my stomach. I would, but my stomach. Don't you have a servant? I want to be obedient, but I just can't do it. All of us would not do anything. We'd be at home in our beds, lock the doors. So he doesn't tell us those things. What does he say? What does he tell us? You have a destiny. You have a purpose. I'm calling you to do great things. We like that. So we come out of our house for that. I'm waiting for a great thing. What's that over there? Right in the pit. Hello? Hello? It's by your intention, so I know it will be for my good and your glory. Amen? So what am I going to do? I'm going to rejoice in this, even though for a little while, what's the next one say? You may have to what? Experience grief. He's already telling you, you might, you will have to, not you might, you will have to experience grief. Again, put yourself in Joseph's place. He's not doing a Holy Ghost jig when he hits the ground of the pit. He's feeling something that would be common human feeling. Betrayal. He might have to fight through it, but he's feeling it. Anger. He might have to fight through it, but he's feeling it. Right? Doesn't know what's going on. Confused. Scared. Fear. What is happening? He's hearing them talk. We're going to kill him. Oh, over tuna fish sandwich? So he's experiencing something. And how do I know that we will experience it? Because Yeshua experienced it. Let's look, Matthew chapter 26, 36 through 38. What does it say? Then Yeshua went with his Talmudim to the garden, and he said to them, what? Sit here while I go over there and pray. And then he called the three to himself, right? And said, come with me. And what happened? Read it with me. It's underlined. Grief and anguish came over him. What happened to him? Feel what he's feeling. He knows where he's going. He knows what's going to happen. He knows he lives in a fallen world that's broken, and therefore he has to fix it. And the only way he can fix it is with his life, right? But he still has to trust the Father, correct? Because he's going to have to go through this, even though it's just a little while. He's going to have to experience this grief. It's going to be good not only for him, but for everyone else, because now he's going to have a name that's above every name, right? And he said to them, he's voicing it. You know, sometimes we're like, don't say it. Only speak faith. I am not grieving. I am not grieving. Yes, you are. And what's he say to them? My heart is so filled with sadness that I could die. I don't think you ever read it this way. We hear that it's blood and sweat, but we're not really feeling the impact. And here he's saying to them, I am full of grief and anguish. I am so filled with sadness, I could die. That's experiencing something. And what does he say? Remain here and stay what? Awake with me. What is he saying? What I'm feeling, I know you might not be able to feel, but I want you to feel what I'm feeling at least enough to stay awake and see me through what I'm feeling. Help me with this feeling. And he prays and he comes back, and what are they doing? We know he says, he does it a couple times, and he says, can't you not stay awake? And we hear his prayers, Father, if this could pass from me. But at the same time, he says what? But not my will, but yours will be done. Because I'm rejoicing in this. I'm not focusing on my trial. I will grieve through my trial. I understand what I'm going through, and I will experience what I'm experiencing. And I will not belittle that or make that nothing. It is something. I'm feeling it. What you're going through, we validate. I get it. You're feeling it. You're hurting. You're grieving. I'm not telling you to buck up. I'm telling you I get it. The whole thing about this is death is wrong. Jehovah never created us to die. Do you understand that? He created us to live eternally. And only through disobedience does death enter. So he doesn't like death. He never wanted to have death. And death is wrong. It's wrong for us. It's wrong for him. Death came into the world because of sin. So he's doing something to rectify that which was wrong. And he didn't do it. And Yeshua, by his death, then brings us victory. Hebrews chapter 4, 14 through 16. Therefore, since we have a great Kohen Gadol who has passed through to the highest heaven, Yeshua, the Son of God, let us hold what? Firmly to what we acknowledge as true. For we do not have a Kohen Gadol unable to empathize with our weaknesses. You need to underline that. Since in every respect, he was tempted just as we are tempted. And the only difference being that he did not sin. Therefore, let us confidently approach the throne from which God gives grace so that we may receive mercy and find grace in our time of need. Do you honestly think that the 40 days in the wilderness is the only time he was tempted? Do you honestly think that after all that was wrapped up in 40 days, that when he left, the devil never tempted him again? That temptation was to stop his ministry. His ministry went on. But you don't think that every day when he woke up, that maybe the same feelings that we have and the same weaknesses that we have experienced and the same sicknesses that come on us tried to come on him, but the only difference is he knew how to go to the Father and the Father was there and he knew how to conquer all that stuff? And he sinned not? Hebrews tells us he empathizes with us. He knows what we're going through. He was tempted in every respect. And we know that at the end of the day, how he felt at the end. Anguish, grief, so much sorrow, he wanted to die. Have you ever been there in your trial and tribulation? I just want this to be over. If it can't be over, I just want to die. What does Paul say? Romans chapter 12, 15. Rejoice with those who rejoice. And what? Weep with those who weep. You know, sometimes we carry the testing and trial alone, right? But there's also times that we are hurting and we need someone to hurt with us. We don't want them to say, pray about it, get over it, God is bigger. What we need them to do is what Yeshua wanted them to do. I don't want you to take this anguish from me. I don't want you to take this pain from me. I'm going to feel what I have to feel because I also understand 1 Peter, and Peter understands it. So I'm giving you some insight, but I want you to at least acknowledge what I'm feeling and stay awake enough to say, I understand it. I don't get it, but I see that you're anguishing. I see that you're grieving. So rejoice with those who rejoice, and sometimes weep with those who weep. Quit trying to be super spiritual, and if they're weeping on the ground, don't tell them God's going to got it, God's going to do it, God's going to do it. Sit there and weep with them. Because their deep soul joy is going to get them through. But, what's he say? You will experience grief, because we are not without feelings. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 7. There's hope. We're headed toward the end. I said 2 verses. Even gold is tested for genuineness by fire. The purpose of these trials is so that your trust genuineness, your pure metal of your faith, which is far more valuable than perishable gold, will be judged worthy of praise, glory, and honor at the revealing of the Messiah, Yeshua the Messiah. Trust genuineness, the pure metal of your faith, that pure gold nugget that after it's onto the fire, all the dross comes to the top and can be moved off. And the only thing that's left is that pure gold. How do you get the pure metal? How do you get this pure faith? How do you arrive at the moment of genuine faith? Fire. And what is fire? Trials and tribulations. As good as your praise and worship is, that is not your fire. your fires of trial and tribulations. Your praise and worship will not show you what level of love you're at. The testing and trials will show you where your love lies. Right? Your praise and your worship, my preaching to you, is not going to reveal to you your lack of or how much forgiveness you have. It's the testing and trial that will reveal that. That testing and trial will tell you what needs to be lifted up and out of your life so that the genuineness of your faith rises. It's the times that you say, we've all been there, it's not worth it. I'm done. I'm finished. I've prayed, I've trusted, and it's not getting any better. And you're ready to quit, and then the Word of God comes to you. And then when you're struggling with that, the Ruach comes to you. And then you say, Word of God, Ruach, you're right. I can't give up. I won't give in. That's Yeshua. If this can pass from me, let it pass from me. But the Word comes. He sees the purpose. The Ruach comes. And at the end of the day, what does he say? Not my will. See, at first, my anguish and my grief wants me just to die right here. You know, when he says, I'm so full of sorrow, I wish I want to die, you know what that means? I don't want to finish this. I want to exit out. I just want to, I don't want to do the next step. I don't want the next day. I even hear them coming. I don't even want them to come. When they arrive, let me just be dead. But not my will. So guess what? There's a moment in your life in the midst of the trial when you want to give up and you want to give up and you want to give up, that all of a sudden you have this epiphany and all of a sudden you say, I will not give up. I cannot give up. I refuse to give up. And guess what happened? That trial has now caused you to move to a different level because you're passing it. Did you feel the grief? Yes. Did you feel the anguish? Yes. Did you feel like you want to give up? Yes. But you moved on. Then your faith becomes stronger than it was when you entered. You become more pure because of the fire that you've been in your life. And it becomes stronger, and you can face, guess what? The next trial. When will that be? I don't know. Because Jehovah is sovereign. But I will guarantee this. It will come because you're not yet pure as gold. In verse 7, far more valuable than perishable gold. Your true faith becomes more valuable than gold, which is perishable. What does that mean? It means there is no possession, no treasure that is more valuable than a true faith in Jehovah. For by Jehovah we can have a settled peace in the face of our trials. What is more important to God, my ministry or my genuine trust? My faith. What is more important to him, my belongings, my stuff, what I can say that I've had, what he's given me, what he's supplied me, or that my faith has been tried? My faith. We argue, why'd you take this? Because those things are temporal and not important to him. He's interested in your eternal, genuine, tried by fire faith. Why? Because he's coming after you. Our metal, our pure metal, can be raised as a glory to our God. You know, I can say, look, I have 10,000 people in the church, and that can either be by God's design or man's design, because man knows how to bring people in. Look at my house, look at my car. Depending on what I did and how I did it, I can raise money, and raise money can buy that. So that house does not give God glory, and my car does not give God glory, and my ministry and the largest of it does not give God glory. What will give God glory? Me. And where I've allowed him to take me, and what I've been through, and that I'm still moving through, and that each step I go through it, I become more pure. That's the glory. We have it mixed up. We think the glory is, wow, look how God is. Oh, look what God has done. The glory of God. No, nothing. The Mormon temple is beautiful. Did God build it or man? Man. What's Philippians 4, 6, and 8 say? Don't worry about anything. On the contrary, make your requests known to God by prayer and petition with thanksgiving. Then what happens? God's shalom, passing all understanding, will keep your hearts and minds safe in union with the Messiah Yeshua. And then in conclusion, brothers, focus on what? These things. But what's going to happen? Your pure metal can be raised as a glory to our God. Why? Because now you have the peace that passes all understanding. Hey, you all over there in Turkey that left Jerusalem and now you're living there and you're dispersed and some of your family's here and you don't have what you have. Your belongings are here and you lost your home. You lost everything. Guess what? You can have peace that passes all understanding where you're at. Does it mean you'll never come back? No. Does it mean that you'll never be reunited? No. The trial doesn't necessarily mean the destruction of everything. It just means the purification of you. We are put into situations. I want you to write this one down. I'll give you time. We are put into situations where we will learn lessons where we could not learn them anywhere else. I'm going to send you to Egypt because you're going to learn a lesson that you couldn't learn anywhere else. And you will one day wake up and you will what? Call out to me. I will put you in a situation, prodigal son, where you will never learn anything else and you'll have to learn it here. And where would that be? In a pig pen, eating the same corn the pigs eat. Then you come to your what? I mean, you must be really, really out there if you sit with pigs and eat corn that are given to pigs and not come to your senses. As soon as I saw the pig pen, I would have came to my senses. I ain't going in there. So you learn through trials. Yes, you study to show yourself approved. Yes, I'm preaching to you and teaching you. You're learning from what I'm saying. Yes, you read the Bible, you learn. The Ruach comes and teaches you. Yes, you learn all those things. You learn Genesis, Exodus. You learn through the Torah portion. All those things are wonderful. But the greatest tool that Yehovah uses in your life is trials. Because it's the trials that perfect our faith. What I'm giving you tonight is information, it's knowledge, it's wisdom, but will only become really valuable to you when it's tested. And it will be tested. This is not so that you can see every trial coming. You won't. Pastor Kenny had a, and I say this to you all the time, but in Pastor Kenny's side yard, they used to have a fence, and he dug holes, and it was going to be for a garden, and it didn't work out, and the poles went this way, so we took them all out. But you know what we didn't do? We didn't fill in the holes. It's been 5 years. And here's the thing. The holes don't move. They're in the same spot they were 5 years ago. And as much as I try to make sure I don't step in the hole when I take the dog out, I guarantee you, I step in one of those holes. And I say to myself, that hole! I need to fill that in. And then I go in and forget about it. 2 days later, bring the dog out. Then I turn to Pastor Kenny's house. No, I don't. So I call Nell. Nell, when are you going to come out and fill these holes in? Because I am calling my insurance company right now. It perfects our faith, right? Let's look at verse 7. I'm finishing up here. Even gold is tested for genuineness by fire. The purpose of these trials is so that you trust genuineness, which is far more valuable than perishable gold, will be judged worthy of praise, glory, and honor at the revealing of Yeshua the Messiah. We saw that at the revealing of the Messiah. We saw that in verses 3 through 5. What will be precious and valuable in Yeshua's sight when he is revealed? True, tried faith. You know, when I stand before him and he says, well done, thy good and faithful servant, what is he saying? Oh, I saw all the people you brought in. That is really good. I appreciate that. Oh, I saw the car you drove. No, what's he looking at? What makes me that I've been a good servant? That my faith has been tried, and I've made it through, and I've grown, and I've become more precious, and I become more solid and more gold, and more dross is lifted. Well done. Well done, well done, well done. He doesn't say, now, may I have your bank account so I can see what you did? Our faith in Messiah is the most valuable thing we have. And if it's the most valuable thing that we have, then what I said to you about your treasures on this earth, you need to do the same thing. You need to enhance it, you need to guard it, and you need to work on it. We need to become trophies of Jehovah's greatness. What he has done. We're too busy elevating the trophies that we have done. Right? Wow, look what we have done, God. And we throw him glory. We give God glory for everything. But it's really our trophies. Right? But we need to become the trophies of Jehovah's greatness. He already has a kingdom. He already has a temple. He already has a city. He's not interested in anything we have. Right? In fact, when it's all said and done, he's going to create a what? A new heaven, new earth. No, not this building. Oh, don't you understand? It's not important. It's not important at the end of the day. He has taken nothing and has made something great. And the earth was void and without form, and what's he do? He creates a garden, right? And then he takes dirt, which we know what dirt is, and he forms it, and he breathes into it, and he creates something out of nothing, right? And then he finds us. Remember, from the from the beginning to the end, and when he comes back, he sees you, and he says, I like you, and he sets his love on you, and then he chases you until you finally yield to him. And when you yield to him and you surrender and you have a relationship with you, what's he do? He takes nothing and through trials and fire makes something powerful. And at the end of the day, when he comes and gets us, or he comes and arrives, however you want to see it, however your whisk of life is, Yeshua, when he gathers you, because remember, who the Father has given me, I will not lose one. So that means if he won't lose you, he has to work on you. Right? Because the way you are, so he has to work on you. And some of you need a lot of work. But when he calls and he stands before the Father, he presents us to the Father blameless. Who gets the glory? He does. For we will bow and worship, and we will take our crowns and we will throw them at his feet. Why? Because we didn't do anything. And his name is above every name. And every knee will bow and every tongue will confess. So I stand and I say, oh, hold on a minute. All I wanted you to come. And I say, Lord, look at line. He says, step aside. You didn't do nothing. All I can do is say, I was obedient to you. I spoke when I wanted to speak, but the workings of these people are not in me, but in him. We bring glory, praise, and honor to him because of the trials that brought out our pure metal faith. We bring that glory to him. Ashley, go back to the verse, if you can find it. Couple, boom, boom, boom. And then I'm going to give you two verses, and we're going to go home tonight. Let's go back to that verse, 1 Peter. Even gold is tested for genuineness by fire. The purpose of these trials is so that your trust, genuineness, which is far more valuable than perishable gold, will be judged worthy of praise, glory, and honor at the revealing of Yeshua the Messiah. Who gets the glory? Who gets the praise? Who gets the honor? Yeshua. He's worthy of it. Go to Habakkuk. Look at Habakkuk 3, 17, 18. This is a bad day. Are you ready? For even if the fig tree doesn't blossom, no fruit is on the vines, even if the olive tree fails to produce, and the fields yield no food at all, even if the sheep vanish from the sheep pen, and there are no cows in the stalls. That sounds like a country song right there. Now, I don't even listen to country songs, but that sounds like a country song. Can you hear it? Even the fig tree doesn't blossom. Okay. What's it say, verse 18? What's it say? What? What? Still, I will rejoice in Yehovah. I will take joy in the Yehovah of my salvation. When? Even if the fig tree doesn't blossom, even if no fruit is on the vines, even if the olive tree fails to produce, and the field yields no food at all, even if the sheep vanish from the sheep pen, there are no cows in the stalls. What a day. What a day. Come on. What a day. Amy, what a day when your chickens just don't want to work with you. You know what I'm saying? You can say, listen, chickens, I'm still going to praise him. Now, you might be food in about 5 minutes if you don't straighten up, but I'm still going to praise him. So what does Peter tell us to do? What's the foundational scripture we're using throughout all this study? 1 Peter chapter 1, 13. Therefore, then what? Get your minds ready for work. Do what? Keep yourselves under control. And what? Fix your hopes fully on the gift you will receive when what? Yeshua, the Messiah, is revealed. Amen? Any questions? Hallelujah. 2 more verses down. Should be 2019 when we're finished, 1 Peter. We'll be here next year. I'll be saying, let's celebrate 33 years at Lion of Judah. Now turn to chapter 2. Hallelujah. Let's stand before the Lord. Pastor Kenny, is he here? Where'd he go? Look at him sneaking in the back. Everyone tell him, fix those holes. No, I'm just kidding. The dirt is 5 feet from the hole. Praise the Lord. Let's praise. Come on, preach. No, don't preach. We got to go home. Don't preach. We got to go home. Oh, my watch stopped. What time is it? Oh, 10 till. Lord, you're all glad I didn't look at my watch. My watch stopped at 8:15. I could have been preaching for another 45 minutes.
I told you it was broken. I've got a reason to shout.
Hey! I was in darkness and y'all brought me out. I'm here to testify, tell you about my wonderful reason to shout. I got a reason to shout. I was in darkness and y'all brought me out. I'm here to testify, tell you about my wonderful reason to shout.
We've been through the fire.
We've been through the fire. We've been through the flood. He's been by my side. You got God. You got enough. I said I got a reason to shout. I was in darkness and y'all brought me out. I'm here to testify, tell you about. I'm here to testify, tell you about. I'm here to testify, tell you about my wonderful reason to shout. 1, 2, 3. Praise Jehovah. Enjoy the rest of your week. See you all on Sabbath. 32 years. Hallelujah. Come expecting.